Last week, we began our conversation with Victoria Duerstock and Chef John Malik talking about how food connects us to story. Tell us a story, John, about something that went wrong.
I'm in my pumpkin patch right now, and I see where my turkeys have knocked off one of my immature pumpkins. So that went wrong.
Yeah. What about a food that went wrong that now, became a happy accident?
Let's see here. A happy accident. Cooking story with a happy accident. In the past, I have done multiple cooking demonstrations at various food and wine festivals, whatever, across the Southeast. One in Memphis a few years ago, where my wife is from. And one of my favorite stories to tell is the time that I put a couple tablespoons of oven cleaner into 5 gallons of sauce that was supposed to be served was at a banquet hotel in New Orleans many, many, many years ago, because the chef told me to go get some kitchen bouquet and pour it into the sauce. And it was in a steam jacketed kettle, something that looked like a jacuzzi. It was, and somebody had put this unlabeled bottle of oven cleaner amongst the spices, and kitchen bouquet is a dark, lifeless liquid. It's solely meant to add color. And picked up this bottle and gave it a sniff, and I was like, shrugged my shoulders. Yeah, this smells like kitchen bouquet. Thank God I didn't taste it, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and poured a couple tablespoons into this bubbling sauce that was supposed to be served on our banquet that we were going to plate up in like 15 minutes.
No.
Yeah, and so that, as for a professional chef, we all have to make mistakes like that early on.
Yeah.
And taught me a very valuable lesson, knowing your ingredients and having complete understanding of what you're doing at any given time, and of how you organize your food.
I love that.
Yeah, there are lots of storytelling applications.
You don't put chemicals with your foodstuffs, ever.
Right.
Everything is labeled, everything is dated, everything is organized. The kitchen has got to have purpose. It's got to be organized with purpose.
Wow, I like that. That's a great life lesson. What about you, Victoria?
Well, I've had the numerous mishaps where, I've tried to do a layer cake and the layers become more like earthquake cakes because they all slide off each other. And, usually that's when company's coming over. So you're trying to fix something a little bit nicer than just the typical, dessert for family. So that's always fun. And then trying to make my mother-in-law's recipe for chocolate pie and never getting it to set, because it was just one of those that just you stirred and the pudding would just never set. It was my mother-in-law's recipe, so I felt like I really needed to do it well. So over time, you learn to let her do that well and let everybody kind of have their place, and that's her thing, So that's married life lessons right there. But one happy accident I think that we did one time, we forgot the poppy seeds in our poppy seed casserole, which, seems kind of strange because it's a great chicken casserole and we love it and it's a family favorite, but it was really meant to have poppy seeds in it, and everybody actually decided they liked it better without. So sometimes those happen too.
Right. Absolutely. Well, John, you touched a little bit on this, but I want to explore this a little bit more. There's this movement, like you said, to become more aware of where our food is coming from. And that farm to table concept offers more than just a clean eating option. We get to hear the stories of the farmer and producer. So, John, can you give us a little bit more insight into that benefit?
Well, the big benefit is for the farmer. Farmer can tell his story. That can enable him to charge higher price for the product. I can go down to the farmer's market downtown Greenville, and in the springtime when asparagus is season, and pay $5 for asparagus. But at the same time, I can go to the local grocery store, any one of the grocery stores, traditional grocery stores in town, and pay half that much for asparagus. Right?
Right.
But do I understand that the asparagus in the grocery store is coming out of Florida, and it's got 4,000 miles of travel on it? I mean, it's great if you're a Peruvian asparagus farmer, but it's hardly local, it's hardly seasonal. And why is it that local asparagus is only available for a short amount of time? And it has to do with the way that asparagus grows, So one of my favorite farmers is Chris Sermons, and he's all about the biodiversity, and he can tell his story. And when he gets out there at the market or comes to the restaurant with tomatoes or peppers or whatever, it's stuff that's seasonal. It's stuff that's germane to our region. It's important to our region. And he can tell his story about why this particular onion, why is he bringing us this particular onion at this particular time.
That's wonderful. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've also heard and I've experienced a little bit that local product has a different flavor than maybe the one that's shipped however many miles you said.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So you've got quality and a different opportunity in that story. And so maybe the chef, the consumer will be more willing to pay that little extra because you know you're getting that quality.
And you're supporting somebody locally, somebody that's in your, that supports the neighborhood's economy.
Right. Right. Which we just talked about with our small businesses episode
Local
when
bookstores,
we talked about small bookstores and independent bookstores and supporting the local economy and local authors. So that's a great tie-in. How about you, Victoria?
Yeah, I mean, I love the local farmer market. I love going down there and meeting the people that are growing the produce. But one of the greatest experiences that we personally had in our family, we actually raised sheep for a little while. We would not have done that if we'd lived in Florida for, the rest of our lives as we had anticipated, I don't think. But moving to North Mississippi, we got involved in 4-H, and children started raising sheep. And so each year we had a new round of lambs that would come in, and the process of working with those lambs, of what they get to eat, what they don't get to eat, protecting them, providing for them. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into that. And previously to that point, I would not have had that kind of knowledge or interaction. And so my children have had the experience of being able to see that process and see what really does go into it. It does make it a little harder, of course, for the final ending.
Yeah, don't name the sheep.
Yes, because that is the hard part. But it does give you more of an awareness of being cognizant with others, what we're eating, why, where it came from, and how careful the local farmer is to make sure they're giving the right kind of feed and caring for those animals, because that's a full-time job.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point.
Restaurant company that I work for is fairly large. We have 6 or 7 different properties. And recently I hosted a few chefs over at the farm, and we butchered several chickens, right? And the point being is that in a big restaurant, the biggest challenge is always be controlling waste. And it gets real easy for a cook who's working a grill, and you're serving 500 covers, and he's putting, in any given night, he might cook 150 steaks or 100 pieces of chicken. And it's real easy to forget that everything that I've put on that grill tonight was a living, breathing animal.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that anybody that cooks on a high level, professionally, or fancies themselves, somebody that's in tune to their local food scene, if you do that once, if you participate in butchering an animal once, you will never waste another drop of chicken or beef or pork again, because it's a difficult thing to do. You haven't done it before. But once you've done it, it will really open your eyes, especially in a grocery store. When you go to the grocery store and everything's behind plastic wrap, you look at that and you say, all right, I'm going to buy it, but I'm not going to waste it. I'm going to make sure that every bit of this is used.
That story is very interesting, John. My dad used to be the young man who had to go and take care of the chicken at his family farm. And to this day, that is probably his least favorite food to eat. It kind of traumatized him. So, we talked about that reluctant cook who's having a difficult time with, making that first foray into cooking. And you mentioned a couple of things, macaroni and cheese, eggs, something that would be simple. But what about a piece of equipment that you would say, if you're going to go into cooking, this is your must-have? What would be something you would recommend, Victoria?
My must-have equipment would have to be my KitchenAid mixer because I don't have an arm strong enough to stir it all up like I need to. So my KitchenAid's been on my counter for 20 plus years, and I love it.
That's great. How about you, John?
Oh, I love my KitchenAid mixer too. If I was going to give advice to somebody, though, one piece of equipment, it'd probably be a chef's knife, an 8-inch chef's knife,
Yeah.
to come to terms with the basics of chopping and dicing.
Yeah. That is excellent. I was schooled very severely when my brother, who is quite a good cook, came and visited me, and my knives were horrible. I had to remedy that quickly. John, quickly, where did you learn to cook, and what are some of your greatest influences?
Oh, geez, I'm still learning.
Okay. So where did you first start learning?
Well, I grew up in New Orleans, and so my background is in that style, Creole Cajun. I cooked a lot at home, went to culinary school right out of college. You know, I treated it as a job for a long time, and I didn't really come to terms with it until, probably 1996 or so. And I was puzzled as to why I kept seeing the same 10 chefs in every food bank. And I started to really think about what I was doing from a perspective of where I live, where I cook, what ingredients I was using, and really started to change the way I cook. One of the reasons you always read about the same guys was because they had a massive PR program behind them. Another reason was because they cooked regional ingredients in an elevated manner. So it was about halfway through my 5-year stint at this restaurant in town called Augusta Grill, and I started to shop at the market back then, and I started to really explore Southern ingredients and local ingredients and try to figure out what I can get locally and why should I use it and what can I do with it and how I can make it memorable.
So you were coming back to some roots. I love that.
Yep.
How about you, Victoria?
Yeah, really, I grew up learning with my mom. I'm an only child, and my dad traveled a lot. So when mom was in the kitchen cooking, I was kind of right around her. And she taught me how to make my own homemade mac and cheese. And that's always been a staple, and can't even serve Velveeta or Kraft to my kids anymore because they've been spoiled by the good stuff. And so mom was always, the person that taught me how to cook, taught me the recipes, and gave me the inspiration to move forward. And then I have always been intrigued watching the shows that have come across Food Network over the last 20 years or so. And Alton Brown and his Good Eats show was one that it fascinated me because you could see all the different things behind it. I like to know the why of how things work together and why things work together. And so that's probably one of my greatest influences. I would take some of his things that he would talk about, the recipes he would give, and then go try them myself.
Awesome.
All right, last question. John, what's a metaphor to help us understand the confluence of stories and cooking and culture and community?
Give me another one.
We'll let you think about it, and we'll let Victoria answer this one first. Go ahead, Victoria.
Oh, great. Well, this is what I came up with. If you give me another, 3 months, I'll probably come up with something a little better. But creating a habit of cooking helps us really savor the flavor of intentional living.
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
So flavor, intentional living. I like that.
Savor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
That was fun to think about, though. Yes.
Excellent. Did that help a little bit, John?
Yeah, I'm going to go with her answer. I like that.
Can you expand it a little bit? Give a twist of it on your own?
There is one thing I'd like to ask, John, if you're gonna dodge the metaphors. Can you tell us a little bit more about Donuts for Amy, what it's about, how it came to be, and where we can buy it?
Well, you can buy it on Amazon or Goodreads or wherever you get your books. It's published by Winter Goose Publishing. So I've always been a storyteller. I think I wrote my first short story for my mom when I was in 4th or 5th grade. And at the time, I was food and beverage director of this very large retirement community here in Greenville. And on April 1st, no kidding, this is like 2009, we had a new management company come in, and a lot of people were laid off. And with the new management company, I got a new executive director of the community. And after she'd been there about 3 months, she said, I want everybody on my executive team, there's only like 6 of us, I'd like y'all to do rounds like a doctor would every day. Get out of your department and go meet somebody new. And once a week, send me a report. She gave us a template. Just send me a report. Tell me who you met. Tell me why they were important. Tell me why they were here. And the rest of the members of the executive team were rolling their eyes, you know. and I was like, whoa, she's asking us to write stories. That's pretty cool. And so after about 4 or 5 weeks, my 100-word reports ballooned into 500-word essays. And, you know, in a retirement community, it was not unusual to have someone die. We had a memory care facility, so we had family members with dementia. We had a skilled nursing facility, so we had people that were elders that had a variety of ailments. And it's a very trying time for the family members. And so there's a very emotional aspect to being in management in a big facility like this. And so every Friday I'd send her a report about something that happened there. And sometimes I'd make her laugh, sometimes I'd make her cry. And then she started to say, you really should write a book. You really should write a book. And after a couple months of her telling me that, I saw her reading a romance novel. And I just kind of picked it up and was like, oh, you know, all that talk about writing a book. And so I took her up on it and wrote a book about a chef at a retirement community. There's some tragedy in it, some drama, and I tell you, a bunch of retired millionaires, they can get into some trouble. And so, so some of the elements of the story, of the novel, are quasi-accurate, you know, the personal experiences. Some of those elements are made up. But anyway, it's about a chef at a retirement community in Greenville, and he's a widower, and ultimately he falls in love with his boss, Amy.
That's very sweet.
So is writing a book sort of a metaphor for cooking?
So once you head down that road, once you say, I want to write a novel, publish it, that is a endeavor in organization. The writing part, the scripting it out, the outline, the storytelling, and then ultimately the really hard part is selling it to a publisher. That's a very challenging thing to want to do. So I wouldn't recommend it because it's a really good way to have strangers tell you you suck. You know.
Yep.
You're horrible, and I never want to see you. Don't send me anything ever again. But it was also a very fascinating process, and I learned a lot. So once you decide to say I want to write a novel, I want to have it published, it is so much more than just storytelling.
Sure.
And you've got to look at it as like a 5-year project.
So I wonder if your metaphor is similar to the organization of your kitchen, and
Right.
Stories are part of that. They do become organized, and you wouldn't want to put kitchen cleaner in sauce. It makes a funny story, but it's not very tasty.
Right. So comparing a novel to something on my business is more like opening a restaurant and getting it up and running, taking it to a level of success. It's a 5-year project. You know?
Excellent. There you go. Thank you. That's a great metaphor.
Victoria, where can we buy your latest book?
Yes, so currently it's out on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's in stores in Barnes & Noble, anywhere books are sold. And once October passes and November picks up, Target will actually carry Heart and Home for Christmas in stores as well. So we're excited about that.
That's awesome.
I'm excited to read it too. I'm looking at it on Amazon.
That's great. Have that instant technology. He can check out your book.
And I just have to throw in here, because I don't know if I mentioned this after we started recording or not, but John and I first met when we were volunteering at a prison. And as we were talking, I got an email that said, "Cook like a prisoner, recipes from the inside. I never thought in a million years you could make so many things in the microwave." Came from Prison Fellowship. So there's a story for everything. All right. Well, special thanks to author Victoria Duerstock and Chef John Malik for joining us to talk about cooking stories.
Absolutely.
Next week, we'll be having a conversation all about stories of foster care and adoption. And that's going to be really, really good. I think we're going to have almost the whole triangle there, plus some terrific storytellers, novelists, and a screenwriter. So that'll be a good one.
Absolutely.
Thank you for leaving us ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts. If you've not yet subscribed, you can take a moment to do that at theafterwordpodcast.com, and you'll be all up to date on the latest Afterword information with links to all kinds of fabulous guest resources. And as always, you are welcome at our table where there are great stories, but no donuts for Amy.